Welcome back, Mr. Goodberry. The First Star Logistics studio is fully equipped and ready to record.
Welcome back to Bengals On The Brain, presented by First Star Logistics. I'm your host, Joe Goodberry. This is episode 179, and I was planning to watch another undrafted free agent edition ad to the Bengals and shook Quan Loyal from Rutgers, and I did the episode. And then it got corrupted and would not load. So sometimes I take that as a sign of don't do it, and let's talk about all the things that have happened. I haven't had a chance to do that. I haven't had a Spaces on Twitter. I haven't done a live stream in a while. I haven't answered your questions in a while. I haven't just talked about where the Bengals are at, what they're doing, what the latest news is. So I said, you know what? The file got corrupted. It is what it is. Move on. There's still more to talk about. Mandatory minicamp is tomorrow, or at the time of you watching this. The Bengals have mandatory minicamp, which means players have to show up and participate, or something. Participate. I shouldn't have said that, because we had that before when guys are holding out, holding in. They're there, but they're not actually participating. We got to worry about Trey Hendrickson, right? Is that deal still going to get done? Is it just a matter of money? Is it respect? Sounds like the Bengals haven't picked the phone back up to negotiate in a long time with Trey. So I don't expect anything there anytime soon, even after the Bengals released captain Germaine Pratt. Germaine Pratt, a third-round pick, I don't know, NC State, right? Became a starter for them in big seasons, big playoff games, making big clutch plays for this defense. His playoff run in 21 and 22, very good. Obviously, we're going to remember Germaine Pratt for the highlights and the good times, because we had a lot of them. He was a core member of that defense that was a no-name defense, really. Analysts at the time said the Bengals don't have enough stars on defense to be a good defense. And yet they were a good defense, and they were good in the playoffs. They were great in the playoffs. And Germaine Pratt was a big part of that. Obviously, sealing that interception versus the Raiders. I was there. Everyone can remember where they were at that time. I was at that game, if they cried or not, which I didn't. But I was definitely, remember feeling just like it was such a weight lifted off and such a long time coming. If you couldn't help but think about all the Andy Dalton, even Carson Palmer, Marvin Lewis era teams, and how often they couldn't get over that hump in the wild card round. The Bengals felt cursed, and then Germaine Pratt makes that play. It seemed like the Raiders potentially could come back. How did we get to this point? How could they make a play here and get back in this game? And then Pratt seals it. And it wasn't just that. Germaine Pratt had a fantastic Super Bowl game. I got overshadowed by Logan Wilson. Someone had a cut up of the Super Bowl snaps and plays he made, and I was like, Logan Wilson had a chance for MVP. So did T. Higgins, so did Joe Burrow, right? So maybe even Joe Mixon, if they would have been up and they would have, finished that game differently and kept running the ball maybe. But they didn't. The guy we don't talk about, Germaine Pratt, though, had a fantastic game. Look at his PFF grade. I think it's at 89 for the Super Bowl. But then against the Chiefs, he made a bunch of plays. Against the Titans, I mean, the guy, he was good. And when they needed a play, I've got so many tweets where I'm just like, Germaine Pratt. Of course it is. Playoff Pratt, right? He was clutch. He wouldn't quit. He'd be clawing at that ball. He'd be in the right place when it counted. And sure, he never became a Pro Bowl player. He never became a cornerstone player even. Got a second contract, a fair value second contract from a third-round pick that started for 5 years or so. You'll take that. He was durable. He became a team captain. And yeah, at the end, while we're throwing flowers at Germaine Pratt, he was released. And that tends to happen on the final year of deals. The final years are not real. I've been saying this for a while. Pratt, another one in a long line of Bengals players that are getting cut in that final year, unless you restructure or extend, right? And that's why Trey Hendrickson, tying it back, is looking for a new deal with 1 year left on his deal, because that last year doesn't mean anything. You can cut a player and save all of that money. There's nothing guaranteed. And Bengals get $5.6 million to spend extra, which brings them to around $20 million in effective cap space, give or take. Brings them about $27 to $28 million in cash they could still spend if they want to push it to where they have before. Will they spend it? That sounds like a Trey Hendrickson extension right there, right? Like adding 10 million, maybe 15 million to his money this year, using up a lot of that and then going forward. And could they still sign a Brandon Scherf or a Julian Blackman, insert player, whoever it is? Yes, of course they could. They got plenty of money and plenty of cap space. But while we're throwing flowers at Germaine Pratt, I'm going to try and stay focused here and stay on one subject. He got so stiff. It became such a detriment to his play. Talking about on-field evaluation of a guy's athleticism. There is results-based evaluation saying, well, he missed a lot of tackles. Yes, very true. But why did he start to miss a lot of tackles? This is a guy who had elite grip strength, was a very good tackler in that second to fifth year in the NFL. He became so stiff. He couldn't break down in space. He couldn't change direction. He couldn't adjust speed on the fly. And that you can't play in today's NFL like that. You have to have that sideline to sideline burst, acceleration, and agility. And he just couldn't do it anymore. And then he wasn't as physical, right? He looked heavy, but lost the physicality part of it. Those two things, that's a bad combo. And mentally, he was still super sharp. I broke it down so many times here on Bengals on the Brain, presented by First Star Media, First Star Logistics, on the First Star Media YouTube page. Hit like, subscribe, share with your friends, or for subscribers on Twitter. When I break down the film every week, I say, hey, here's Pratt calling plays before they're happening, pointing things out before they're happening, getting guys in the right spots before it happens. He was still key there, but the effort was inconsistent. I felt he didn't take ownership of the mistakes he was making on the field. What tackles? What missed tackles? They were just checking the ball down. Okay. And that's when you start to look at like a player's prime years and their arc and how long do these positions last. Running back, we know, doesn't last long. Corner doesn't last long. Linebacker doesn't last long either. The special guys do, yes. But Pratt's 29. And we're talking about physically being too stiff and too heavy to be an effective player anymore. Now, maybe he could have, and it's not like he had a major knee injury or anything like that. I'm sure he had nagging injuries. Every player does. But maybe some of that could have been mitigated by working on flexibility, taking Pilates or yoga. I don't know. I don't do that stuff. I don't know how to stay athletic or agile and mobile as I'm getting older. And probably start figuring that out as I approach 40. But if Pratt would have done that, maybe it still would have been good. And now, why didn't he have any trade value? Because linebacker is an easy replaceable position where the floor of a insert starter, a borderline starter, a backup that has to come and play is pretty high. Your backups tend to go a few games without being noticed at all. It's not like corner. It's not like quarterback, right? It's not these premium positions. So for a team to say, I can get average, maybe below average play from Pratt at $5.6 million, or I can draft a guy in the fourth round and probably get a similar player, or spend $2 million in free agency and get a similar player. And I would agree if that's their thought process. I think the Bengals got a similar level player, probably in rookie Demetrius Knight, maybe even an upgrade. Same with Oren Burks, could probably outplay, if he plays the way he did with the Eagles, could probably outplay what Germaine Pratt was last year. So why spend that money? I agree. I agree with the Bengals. I agree that Pratt probably still wanted to hold on to that $5.6 million as best as he could, because he's not going to get that in free agency, I don't think. Unless the Colts are really weird about it and lose like, oh yeah, he can still play. I don't expect it. I expect it to be like a 1-year, $2.5 million deal for Pratt in the open market. Having said that, this firmly puts Demetrius Knight into the starting linebacker job. And I think we all expected that. That won't be a shock. That won't be a surprise for anybody. Where does Barrett Carter get involved? Where does Oren Burks get involved? How does Logan Wilson respond and rebound? Right? A lot more on Logan Wilson's plate as a captain, as a communicator, someone who has to stay healthy, right? Because Pratt stayed healthy. It's a lot on Logan Wilson's plate now because of that. a lot of Barrett Carter and Demetrius Knight and Oren Burks. They all got to play, and someone's got to step up. Someone's got to be good out of that trio. And then and then we'll come back and we'll be sitting here, halfway through the season. Like, Bengals got better at linebacker than they were last year. And they probably do just for health reasons, getting Logan Wilson back. But if Knight is good, then you definitely got better at linebacker. If Burks is still the guy he was when he was with the Eagles, he's always been a flash guy. He's always had moments. But he was consistent with the Eagles when his playing time, when his number was called. If he continues to be that, then they've upgraded at linebacker. If Barrett Carter can come in and be a package player, maybe a man cover guy that they really didn't have, that could be an upgrade. You can use that for sure. So a lot of players, it's dwindling. Who's left from the 2021? Is it just Trey, who's holding out, and BJ Hill? And Logan Wilson, of course. That's it. It happened so fast. Those windows, those core players, those eras happen so fast. They come and they go. And it's, you on one hand, you're like, man, great players for this team, or good players, or solid players, or clutch players, however you want to classify them. They're not all amazing. They're not all Ring of Honor type guys. But at the same time, we're talking Hubbard, Mike Hilton, Germaine Pratt in one offseason, Von Bell as well in this offseason. It's a lot of guys that made a lot of plays. It's a lot of memories that go away. So if you're a sentimental Bengals fan, you go, man, take me back. Let me relive one of those games for the first time again when they were all making plays and it was fun. And now we got a lot more questions than we do answers. But that can also mean opportunities to upgrade, opportunities to get better, right? At defensive end, you could get better than what Sam Hubbard was last year. At linebacker, you can get better than what Germaine Pratt was last year. Don't know that you can get better tackling run defense than what Mike Hilton gave you from the slot, but you can get better coverage than what Hilton gave you, no doubt about it. They pretty much lost that game against the Chargers because Ladd McConkey was undressing Mike Hilton. All the respect to Mike Hilton, by the way. Clearly. Big fan. But you can get better in coverage at that spot. You're going to get better than what you had Von Bell for the first 8 games of the year at safety. I expect you to be better there. So that's how you get progress. And then these new guys can be the guys you care for and want to see extended and want to see them play for the Bengals for an extended period, where it's Jordan Battle. Someone asked me on Twitter today, who are the young guys you're excited for on defense? All of them was my response. You tell me if I had to pick logically, guys that have shown flashes of being good: Jordan Battle, Cam Taylor-Britt, DJ Turner, Dax Hill, Joseph Ossai. These guys have shown flashes that they can play in this league and maybe be good players. And then you have your unknowns. Obviously, Barrett Carter and Demetrius Knight, Chris Jenkins, McKinley Jackson, Miles Murphy, Shamar Stewart. But that's a lot of young guys. These young guys, not all of them are going to step up and pan out and be those guys that you need them to be desperately. But if 2, 3, 4, you're back in the AFC Championship hunt, if 4 of those guys, and maybe it's just the secondary, maybe it's Battle, Cam Taylor-Britt, Dax Hill, DJ Turner. Oh, you're good in secondary. If they all hit, that won't happen, right? But maybe it's Battle, maybe it's Dax, maybe it's Demetrius Knight, and maybe it's Shamar Stewart. Your defense is in good shape. And yeah, it's not everyone, because defensive tackle would be an area where you got to upgrade, right? You'd have to figure out a lot of different things in future years. But for now, you're good. But you need some of them. They struck out completely last year, right? They didn't get that second-year leap from Battle. They didn't get that third-year leap from Cam Taylor-Britt. It looked like they were going to get it from Dax, and then Dax got hurt. They looked like they were going to get it from DJ Turner, and then he got hurt. Some thought Akeem Davis-Gaither may take a step when Logan Wilson went down. He did not. Fine player, but did not. Miles Murphy did not take that year 2 step. Chris Jenkins and McKinley Jackson really didn't offer you anything. You got a little bit out of Joseph Ossai. Maybe you got 1 out of 8. I don't even know if it's 8. Count them up. Count up how many rookie or young defensive players are in line to play a ton of snaps on this defense. Might be more than 8. Might be 10. But they went a pretty low batting average last year. They can't do that again. You need to hit a couple of these guys. Can I get a couple home runs, maybe a triple in there, a couple doubles, and then maybe a couple singles and strike out? Well, that's how you get back to the Super Bowl. I don't expect to be that high. Maybe it's one home run, one too much baseball. Speaking of, shout out to the handful of people that came up to me. I was in, what is that called? Cedar Point for a softball tournament this weekend. And so a lot of Browns fans around, lots of Bengals fans too. And a few of them came up to me and talked. And we had a good time. And I appreciate you and appreciate anyone that comes up and shares a moment and talks Bengals for a little bit while I get my mind off the couple of beatings we took this weekend. But we'll be all right. We'll get on that horse and figure it out. They're young girls. Softball, it's fun though. I don't know if we watched the championship, the World Series, the College World Series this past week too. That was a good time. Sports. What am I doing right now in June? In July, more than likely? Lots of softball. Lots of softball with two young girls. Back to the Bengals. I still expect a Trey Hendrickson. That's my halftime break. Or are we more in the three-quarter range? Maybe halftime. I still expect Trey Hendrickson deal to get done. I still expect it to be as painful as possible. And maybe it already has been. How much more painful can it get? It could probably get a lot more painful. It'd probably be talked about a lot more. But I think they'll inflict maximum damage to our psyche before the two sides come to an agreement. I still think the Bengals want to. I still think they're carrying a lot of money and a lot of cash that they have not spent this offseason. That would make sense for them to extend Trey, unless we are talking about them bringing in Brandon Scherf, right before camp or something, or whatever the case may be. But they're still sitting with a lot of money. And they need Trey. And they need happy Trey. And I bet it's just a 1-year extension, so 2 years total. And we're back here next year because Trey's unhappy and wants another extension. Or maybe they don't want to do that anymore. And that's why. That's why we haven't gotten anything done. Speaking of we, is it already okay to say we when I talk about the Bengals like that? Do you guys do that as well? I'm asking for a lot of comments. I do read the comments. Flipping to the offensive side, though. Wanted to talk about it because we don't have any clarity still. Spoken about Scherf a few times, and maybe it's a different free agent offensive lineman at guard. They're not better at guard right now. I would love to see them sign another guard. If you take that Germaine Pratt money and just go throw it at Dalton Reisner or Will Hernandez or Brandon Scherf, I would completely take that. Would you not take that? Would you not take the Germaine Pratt trade-off send-off for a veteran guard? Hell yeah, you would. I hope you would. I would. And I would like them still. I think there's opportunity to upgrade at tight end with Eric All presumably out for the season. I'm watching a lot of clips from OTAs, organized team activities, and Tanner Hudson is still catching balls. And you know what I mean? And I watch this and I go, he's the direct backup for Mike Gesicki. And that's why he's still going to make the team. And fine, I guess. But then I see Drew Sample as the wide tight end, and I go, who else is the other Y on this team? Because then there's a couple of move type tight ends and how they're using Eric All, and I see his initials. Undrafted guy who played last year. Oh, we did a video on him. We did an episode on him, and I looked at the roster before I started recording so I can be fresh. And Tanner McLaughlin, not him. That's not what I'm talking about. But the undrafted guy from last year in Tanner McLaughlin. I'm keeping the struggles in there. I'm not going to edit out. Dave Burke, don't edit that out. Let me struggle live on camera. And I don't think they have really a good replacement for Drew Sample. I don't think they have really a good Eric All replacement. That kind of feels like two positions where you are accepting to be bad at. But this is a team that's going to throw the ball 45 times a game if you let them. So does it really matter? Probably not. When they're so good at receiver, when they're so good at tight end, and potentially deeper at running back now. If you can get Joe Burrow to start this season hot, if you can get Joe Burrow to play September football like he does in November and December, this team's going back to the playoffs. And that would be my goal. make sure the quarterback is ready to go. And I'm not blaming Burrow. He's dealt with injuries every time, right? But so he's not dealing with injuries now. There's no excuse if he starts September terribly again. It needs to be hot and ready to go. You can beat those Browns in November, December. Struggling with them in September, though. Let's go. Start off hot. Start off ready. This offense has got to carry you. We know that. The defense has a chance to be improved because the young guys have so many opportunities to step up and turn into better players. So many players. Does the offensive line have that same ability? I think you can get a good year out of Ted Karras and Orlando Brown Jr., right? Those are veterans, steady players. Dylan Fairchild, could he have a good rookie year? Sure. Typically, rookies and mid-round rookies are below average starting level players. Just a rookie year. He could be very good after that. Marius Mims, though, year 2 for him, if he's not good, if he doesn't take that step, something's wrong. But I expect that step to happen. And if you have 2 good tackles at that point and a good center, maybe you figure out guard. And maybe that's where their mindset is. I don't like that. I just saw a ranking, had the Bengals as the 32nd best offensive line where we sit right now going into 2025. You can accept that with $30-something million in cap space right now, Bengals. That's okay in front of Joe Burrow. I can't understand how it is. So if they sign a guard, I won't be shocked. I'll say, of course they're signing a guard. Of course they are. Look at Cody Ford and Lucas Patrick about to be starting. Cordell Volson is still on the roster. Lucas Patrick's going to be the savior. They need to sign a guard still. And it's not too late. There's starting caliber players still out there, and they're typically signed late June after mandatory camps. So let's go. Let's get it. A couple things that have excited me, though, from OTA clips. I was on with James Rapine, 1530. He was replacing Mo Egger. And I talked about this, some of the things we've seen just from the clips. But better efficiency at practices. And I wonder if it's Burrow being healthy. But they're doing, and this is common now, right? Every team does this. But I'm seeing the Bengals do it more. And I'm seeing it. I remember when I was at the Senior Bowl in 2020, the year Burrow was drafted. And a lot of people that were watching the practices between the Lions and Bengals, because each team had a North team, South team, how the Senior Bowl works. A lot of people going, is this how Bengals practices typically are? They are this unorganized and wasting time? And I didn't know. I was like, I actually don't know. I'd never watched the Bengals practice like that other than camp and stuff. So it was always something I had in my mind. And as I watched camp, and it felt like speeding up and everything was getting more streamlined. Zach Taylor was a new coach, right? So maybe that was just part of it. But now when I'm watching clips, I see Burrow gives the handoff to Chase Brown. Someone else tosses him the ball. So he finishes out his play fake, and then he throws a pass to a receiver. I'm like, way to have 2 plays in one. Get your full reps in. You can work on the run game, the play action game, and the passing game all in one. And then I see another where Jamar Chase comes in motion, goes to the flat, the ball's thrown, and then he lines up directly because he didn't go run his route. He just went to the flat. And then he lines up directly in his position, runs his route, gets the ball in the next play. And it was smooth and efficient, and they barely wasted any time. If you only get 60 minutes to practice, let's not waste minutes. And there was other things, too, that stood out. I'm like, they are really maximizing the efficient part of practice. And then on defense, you're seeing like Cam Taylor-Britt get in the slot. You're seeing Cam Taylor-Britt cover tight ends. Made an interception on one. That's interesting. Are we going to get Cam in the slot? He's got the size of one. He's got the size of a guy that can get inside and defend the run and tackle. Maybe that's what he needs. Maybe he needs less boundary exposure, right, to make a mistake. Typically, though, I thought you want the mental guys at safety and in the box and in the slot. So maybe they see Cam that way and want to get him there. But it's interesting for sure. He's got good length and size and physicality for the corner position. I'd like to see him cover some corners or cover some tight ends. Because I think they like Josh Newton. I think they like Dax Hill and DJ Turner. So get them all in the field. Figure it out from there. You're better at corner than you are at safety. I don't think we're looking at 3 safety packages anymore. Maybe we're just looking at dime defense instead of 3 safeties. I could see that for sure. But that stuff's exciting. The other thing is, I remember watching Did we do it here? I stopped myself short because can't remember if I posted it here or on X, but when Al Golden was hired, I went back and watched a bunch of Notre Dame stuff as much as I can from his time there. And a lot of like preseason clips and camp clips from Notre Dame were them punching the ball out, hawking the ball whenever they could, ripping at the ball, clawing at the ball during tackling drills, during coverage drills. Everything ended with them trying to get that ball out and creating turnovers and forcing the ball loose and getting the ball back to Joe Burrow, right? And so seeing that take place, and there was one tweet they said, though this wasn't part of practice, the guys came in early to work on this. Now, again, that's voluntary stuff. You do that, you're doing it on your own, right? The coaches aren't coaching you, probably per the CBA. Go do it. What we coached you on, go practice it, and then let's get in on practice. That's a good sign when you see the defense doing that and wanting to do it and wanting to create turnovers and understanding our goal is bend but don't break and create turnovers, because that's what defense is. Get the ball back to Burrow as much as possible, and you'll win as many games as possible. So exciting things from that standpoint. Banking on coaching on the offensive line, on the defensive line, at defense as a whole. And then you see him sign, one last point, special teams, because we don't really say much about special teams. You see him sign the top long snapper from the draft. And I look at Cal Adamitis, and there was someone who does long snapping analytics, and Cal Adamitis was down at the bottom of it. And I thought, maybe that's what's going on with McPherson, right? And then you see him sign a guy, and Cal Adamitis didn't get a big deal either in the offseason, got a 1-year deal. Usually you see if it's a good long snapper, he'll get a 2, 3, 4-year deal. Did not get that. There's a competition at long snapper. And if that can fix and get McPherson right, that would be huge for the function of the team, right? They make the playoffs last year if it's Money Mac kicking. And maybe it's not Cal Adamitis long snapping. Maybe he was the issue. Maybe they were too slow, too erratic. Whatever it is, it's long snapping. How do I know? I just know when the field goals are missed or made. And again, coaching, right? Our big upgrade here is a long snapper. But no, you spend a lot of picks on the defense for how many years in a row? You spend 2 offensive line picks, again, 2 years in a row. And maybe that means Matt Lee gets a chance to play. I'm not going to bring up Matt Lee because I will get excited. I don't know where he's going to play. I don't even know if he'll make the team. Steph McLaughlin's going to be fighting for it. And now I'm rambling. This has been Bengals on the Brain, presented by First Star Logistics. Until next time, Hooday.
Bengals fans, tired of the same old post-game chatter? Want real insight beyond the scoreboard? Then you need Bengals on the Brain with Joe Goodberry, presented by First Star Logistics. Joe Goodberry isn't just a fan, he's a die-hard Bengals football analyst. Every week, Joe dives deep into the Bengals game film, breaking down the plays that mattered, revealing hidden strategies, and uncovering the true impact of individual performances. Get ready for post-game analysis like you've never heard before, player evaluations that go beyond the stats, and the most in-depth Bengals draft coverage on the internet. Don't just watch the Bengals, understand the Bengals. Subscribe to Bengals on the Brain with Joe Goodberry on the First Star Media Group's YouTube channel. Get smart, get obsessed, get Bengals on the Brain.